Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tastemakers podcast. This being the podcast where we talk about everything going on in the world of TV and film. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and with me this week, as always, is Grace. How you doing, Grace?
I'm doing well. Excited to talk about TV and movies, like always, Taryn.
Like always, well, I would say a bit of a lighter week in terms of just new things in general. We got a couple new movies to talk about primarily, but some news. Mostly, I would say some trailers. To we don't always talk about trailers, but
It's Comic-Con week, so lots
yeah.
of teasers and trailers and things like that
Mhm.
happening at Comic-Con. So yeah, but
Some thoughts on
not a ton.
those.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, Fantastic Four, of course, came out. Grace watched Happy Gilmore as
Mm-hmm.
well. I would like to at least briefly catch back up with Dexter again because I'm really loving that season, and a couple new things coming this week as well. So that's on the docket today.
People were talking to me about Dexter this week. That was a thing that happened. It was a big episode. In terms of kind of a fun thing happened, and I won't spoil it, but yeah. So that was
Mm,
it's definitely in the zeitgeist again, I think. So
yeah,
people are liking Dexter.
I think the ratings are higher than they've been in a long time, maybe ever.
Mhm.
And people are also like, I saw a post somewhere that like the latest episode is one of the highest rated episodes on IMDb
That's what I'm
in the
saying.
entire series. Like,
People loved this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So all right, let's talk about some news. And I guess technically the biggest thing was the trailer for the new Avatar movie. Fire and Ash has dropped. I have not watched the trailer because I actually didn't know that this dropped until just before the podcast started.
Mhm.
Also, I probably wouldn't watch the trailer anyway
Yeah.
because it's like Avatar. I'm going to see it out of obligation to culture.
Which is so funny. I know that this joke has been done a million times, but the funny thing about Avatar is that it makes like $1 billion, $2 billion, and then we never talk about it. Which the exact same thing happened with Avatar: The Way of Water, where I feel like it made like $1 billion, and then we just don't talk about it. And now a new one's
What is
coming
there to
out.
talk about, though? To be fair,
I guess that's true, but I guess it hasn't embedded itself into culture in the way that you know like you don't see I'm just trying to think of through frames of references for my life, McDonald's Happy Meal, or it was they just don't see more Avatar in the culture. You see Avatar when it comes out in theaters, and then we don't really engage with Avatar after that, which is fun.
yeah.
There was a very funny take a few weeks ago that by Chris Ryan on the Ring, who's like, man, James Cameron just wasting his life doing Avatar movies, huh? Which these are fun movies. They're just, I don't know. Fire and Ash. Played a trailer before Fantastic Four. Gotta tell you, Tara looks a lot like the other two Avatar movies. But this time,
Don't
fire.
say.
Fire. This time, fire.
But look, there's
Mhm.
red in it instead of blue.
Yeah, we're gonna meet the Fire Nation tribes, So, you know, Avatar coming this the end of this year. So, you know,
Yeah, kind
that's
of
gonna be
wild.
good. Yeah, the box office has been I think down again year over year, and so these big movies at the end of the year are probably good just in terms of the box office.
Seems pretty
So
likely this is going to be my Christmas movie.
yeah, hmm yeah.
Um, all right, so there's the Fire and Ash. There was also a trailer for The Long Walk that I did watch a good portion of this trailer. I didn't watch the whole thing because I got to a certain point and I was like, I've seen enough.
Yeah, I don't need Disney
Um,
anymore.
I think we've talked about this before. I read this book when I was a kid, loved it. It's one of my favorite Stephen King books. He wrote it under his pseudonym and Richard Bachman, and it definitely has like a very like young adult feel, but in the Stephen King way, in the same way that like it might feel young adult,
Right.
but also be really messed up. Same is pretty true of The Long Walk, and it feels like this from the trailer that they're kind of nailing it, and I'm pretty pumped for this. I'm pretty excited to watch it.
I'm very excited for this. For like a Stephen King thing, which I think is fun. I know he's written a lot of stuff, and not everything then goes on to be made well, but this should be fun, and it's written by JT Molnar, who people will know did Strange Darling last year, which was sort of a surprise little horror flick. And so I think it's kind of fun that he gets tapped after that, which I think was like written really well. I think that's one of the
Yeah.
things about that movie that you probably like, if you kind of had qualms with it, I think that probably I don't know. I think the thing that it stands out was the way it was written. So that's kind of fun. And then I'm intrigued by this cast. So Cooper Hoffman, son of Philip Seymour Hoffman, he's been in Licorice Pizza, and he was most recently in. Was he in? Sometimes I feel like he looks like another son of another. He looks like the son of James Gandolfini. Sometimes I think, and I get them mixed up.
Oh yeah.
Who I think was in Daredevil, and I was just going to say Cooper Hoffman was in Daredevil,
He
but
was
I don't think he was. He
Licorice
was in Saturday.
Pizza
Yeah, Licorice Pizza, and he was in
on
Saturday Night.
Saturday.
That's the thing I was thinking about. And then
Licorice
David,
Pizza was like his breakout.
correct, yeah, and then David Johnson, who people will know from Industry, but he was also in Alien Romulus as well. And then like sort of down the line, you have Judy Greer, Mark Hamill, Ben Wang is in this movie. Ben Wang was the boy in not Cobra Kai, but Karate Kid Legends, and for my money was like, other than Jackie Chan, the best part of that movie. So I'm kind of like to see that, but should be fun. I think the cast. I feel like it's a good young cast with good supporting, sort of like Mark Hamill, Judy Greer. So that's fun.
Yeah, basic premise, if you don't know, is that it's very Hunger Games esque. Only this was written before Hunger Games, and it is like there's a bunch of these teenagers have to walk for until sorry, they have to walk at a certain speed, which is 3 miles an hour. If they drop below that speed, they die. They get killed.
So it's speed, but for walking.
Speed, but for
meets
walking.
Speed meets Hunger Games.
And
Yeah.
and the thing about it is they have to keep going until there's only one left.
Okay. All right.
So
I mean, I think that I said this a little while ago. I think it was earlier this year. Where I was like, I do feel like if you look at things that are popular, they're new versions of old things. And so I do think that like, yeah, a thing like this could work. Also, Roman Griffin Davis is in this. Roman Griffin Davis was the boy in Jojo Rabbit. I really love that movie, and he's going to be in another movie. So I don't think he's really been in anything since then. So just a good little cast they put together for The Long Walk.
Yeah. All right. So excited about that. There was another little teaser that dropped that I thought was very fun. The Pluribus teaser. This is the new Vince Gilligan show. Of course, the creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. This is going to be starring Rhea Seehorn. And just a tiny little teaser that is exactly what you would expect from Vince Gilligan, quite frankly, in my opinion.
This is perfect. This is the amount of info about a show I want to know. There's some stills out there, I think, too.
I would honestly recommend watching it. It's about 30 seconds. There's probably 15 of those seconds that's actual like video. And it's basically, it reminds me of like what you would expect from a Breaking Bad cold open. It's just a scene of something that you're like, oh, but what does it mean?
Yeah. This is going to be an Apple TV product. I think that he went out after he finished Better Call Saul, and I think that he had an idea for this, and then maybe wrote the script and then sold it, or sort of like auctioning it off, and Apple TV bought it, sort of in the vein of Apple TV plucking out, really great filmmakers to make stuff, or showrunners to make stuff. That's kind of fun. So another Apple TV show. It doesn't have an S name though, Taran. What a surprise. But
Vince gets the red carpet rolled out for him. He gets to pick whatever letter he wants.
That's right. So he's named
Still
his
one
show
word though.
Pluribus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very excited. Reese Horn, like such a good run as Kim Wexler. So very excited to see her be leading a show.
Some renewals and cancellations as well. Stick has been renewed for a season 2. I have not kept up with it since the first about 5 episodes. I may finish it, but it didn't blow me away enough to like prioritize it, especially in this busy time. So we'll see. But it was renewed for a season 2, so it will be back.
There's a couple Apple shows at the moment that I'm like, I should watch that right now, and then I don't get it right, which is Stick and Foundation. I need to keep watching does, because I feel like people are really liking both. I feel like people really liked Stick. I think in the vein of like a Ted Lasso, that type of thing, people seemed to quite like this show. So I think people are pretty happy to see that it got renewed. So yeah.
Yeah. Foundation is week to week, so it's actually not been too hard to keep up so far, which has been nice. There is a cancellation to report on. Resident Alien has reported that its fourth, I think, season will be its final one, which I think it's either just finishing or just finished, perhaps. This is on the SyFy network, SyFy channel. They don't have many of these shows out there, but Resident Alien, a very popular one. People really like this. It's basically just a vehicle for Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
To just be fun. I watched a good amount of the first season. Eventually, kind of fell off of it, not because it was bad, just because I got busy with other things. It is a very charming little show. It's definitely worth a watch. It's a shame that it's coming to a close, seemingly not on its own terms. And I know a lot of people are sad about this, but yeah, I mean, it had a good run, 4 seasons.
4 seasons is pretty on the SyFy network. That feels like, I mean, I guess
Yeah.
the opposite could be true, that like sometimes you'd be like, that show went 8 seasons. Oh, it was on the SyFy network, but at the same time, 4 seasons. Yeah, people do really like this show. I've not watched any of Resident Alien, I have to admit. So I might have to correct that, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
44 episodes.
It's pretty good. I have a couple of. There was another renewal, if you'd like to, which is the Gilded Age. I believe was renewed for season 4. Very popular HBO show.
Still been meaning to check this one out. Yeah.
Yeah. Gilded Age was renewed. So yeah. Yeah. I haven't watched the new season, so I can't really comment on it, but I think people are liking it. When I said a few weeks ago, I said, oh, I kind of thought like season 1 like didn't really grab me. And then I've heard that season 2 was better, and it got better, and it's like stayed good. I feel like there was people who were like, oh yeah, that's right. Like you should stick with it, is basically the thing I had heard a few weeks ago. So I will get back to this at some point.
Right. Well, should we talk about some of the things that came out this week?
Let's do it. Fantastic Four is probably, yeah.
Yeah, Fantastic Four.
Are you gonna click on the 2005 one again?
I did it again.
Classic. Okay, here's my take on Fantastic Four First Steps. There are things that I really like about this movie, and I said yesterday to somebody that I think that this movie is less than the sum of its parts. Where I think, and I've heard disagreement on this, but I think that the Fantastic Four themselves are very well cast. Some people are having a little bit of a nitpick with Pedro Pascal, and there's a little bit. Taran, have you seen this at all? That there's a smidgen of Pedro Pascal fatigue going around the internet at the moment, because he is in a lot. He is in a lot of things. Just in this calendar year, he's been in The Last of Us. He was a Materialist. He's in Eddington, and now he's in Fantastic Four First Steps. That's like over like not just the whole year. That's like the last like 4 months. I think it's like,
I can't say I've seen it, but what I will say is that I have seen so much Pedro Pascal love over the last like year that in my mind, I've been wondering, when is it going to turn into I hate Pedro Pascal? Stop shoving in my face. Does anyone else think that Pedro Pascal is overrated? I actually hate Pedro Pascal because that is the inevitable consequence of humanity, I think.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of happening. I feel like you can kind of feel there is like that happening, and people immediately be like, no, please stop. It's actually fine. I feel like the first like hint I got about it was that like he like the like, ooh, maybe he was miscast as like that guy in Materialist was sort of the first wave of it. And then I feel like now people are like, oh, I don't think he's the perfect Reed Richards. So maybe like the thing for me is like, this guy has been doing it for so long. He's been trying, and he's really like, I guess he breaks out like still over 10 years ago as Oberyn Martell in Game of Thrones, but still he's 50 now. Like, it's not like a young gun who we're just gonna see, like let him have his moment. I like Pedro, so I'm not complaining. I like Vanessa Kirby a lot. Some people I think Joseph Quinn is a little miscast, and then there's a thing where like people like Eben Moss-Backrack, but he's so CGI'd in the movie. He's the Thing, obviously,
Mm.
and so you don't get very much Eben Moss-Backrack, if that makes sense. All that being said, I think the movie is good, not great. And I think that it's funny because I already feel like the thing is shifted. Like we're kind of changing the convo already, and I feel like there needs to be. At one time, Jason and I did like a state of the MCU. I think it was the day that the Doomsday, when Robert Downey Jr. was announced, because I kind of feel like I kept hearing like, this is the movie, this is the one we're gonna see. It's a really big test, and then it's like it's done well at the box office. It's sort of like people seem to like it more than they dislike it. But then everyone's like, but actually, really, Avengers Doomsday is really the test of how well Marvel was doing. And like, I mean, they can't keep getting away with it, which I guess I don't really care. Who cares whether the MCU is doing good or bad?
Well, they
I
just
guess
keep making passable enough entries,
that's
right? It was the
probably
same
right.
thing with the Wolverine versus
Deadpool versus
Deadpool.
Wolverine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was like it was a good enough movie that it wasn't like, oh, this is like the end. But it wasn't also like the groundbreaking thing that revitalizes the franchise. And
So
it sounds like this is similar.
yeah. So, and I think the thing that I most butt up against is I feel like this movie almost feels like a little bit lethargic. Like it has a little bit of like trouble getting going. You know, it's like a little bit just like, and it's funny because it's both small and it's big. Like in terms of like they do go to space. That's part of the, if you've seen the trailer at all, like they go, they are space, they're astronauts. So like there is that. And so they go to these other planets, but at the same time, it's supposed to feel really small. And then the other thing that I was like saying, and somebody said it, and kind of broke the dam on me feeling okay to say it, which is I really wanted the movie to be funnier. And I feel like there are moments where it's like trying and they're not like laugh out loud. Like my theater was pretty full and it was not laugh out loud funny. And I don't want it to be over the top all the time, but I felt like it was missing a little bit of like that. There is a little bit of Marvel juice, you know, that you get some, you know, like I'm kind of thinking about like Thor and Guardians. I feel like there is that, and not that I want every movie to be like that, but then when it was not there, I kind of felt it, if that makes sense. So good, not great is my recommendation. If you're a big Marvel buff, you've probably already seen this. If you're somebody else, I don't think you need to rush out to go see this. I don't think you'll have a terrible time if you go see it though. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, you also watched Happy Gilmore.
2. I watched
Not the
Happy
first one.
Gilmore 2. I've seen Happy Gilmore. Happy Gilmore came around for me at a time 96. So I was like a little young to watch it when it first came, but I definitely watched it a lot. And so I was like intrigued by this. I feel like there has been a thing that Netflix has been doing recently of like, you know, they did Beverly Cops 4 as well. Like they've done these sort of like, let's kind of reboot a comedy like 30 years later. This movie isn't like good, but I don't know that it's not fun. There's like a ton of cameos. They pay so much money for people to be in this movie. Like everyone from Jason Kelsey, Bad Bunny is in it. And those are people who are like kind of advertised. Like there is a ton of there's like a golf scene where it's like 3 pretty famous people who are like playing characters who are golfers. And so like, I don't know, it kind of like I always kept watching it, which is I think exactly what Netflix wants us to be. I thought there was a really interesting thing that I noticed the other day where like if you look at the top 10 movies on Netflix's history, Adam Sandler actually isn't in the top 10, an Adam Sandler movie, which I actually was a little bit surprised by. I thought that he would be in there with something. I do think this is probably his best shot to get in because it's such a marketable, they've been marketing this a lot. You know, I don't think people are expecting a ton from this, and it is what it is. You know, it's like Adam Sandler doing a comedy shtick, you know, 30 years later. So, yeah, no
Yeah.
surprises.
I mean, that's pretty much what I expected, to be honest.
But I think a lot of people are I also feel like sometimes you hear like sometimes a Netflix movie will drop and then they'll be like, it's the most watched movie ever. And you're like, are you sure? Like nobody I know watched it. I do feel like people watched this movie, but maybe that's my bubble and people outside the bubble are not. But I think it's getting both. I think it's sort of like hitting a group of people who watched a lot of TV movies, and it's getting all the casuals who go to Netflix to watch TV, Yeah.
You also finished Sandman?
Yeah, so Sandman, weirdly, Sandman has this thing where this season was dropped into basically 2 parts with kind of like, again, like an extra special that's coming, I believe, this Thursday. And I wasn't sure because it's actually a 12 episode season, but like 11 have been released. And I wasn't sure whether they're actually then holding the secret special finale. But I have to say, after watching this, it's a very, it is both a definitive ending and you could continue this story. I don't think they are continuing this story. The thing that I was kind of like most thinking when I was watching it was like, oh man, I wish we were getting so much more of the Sandman, because I think it's really, really good. I just really love the idea of this show, which is if you've never really checked out, I don't know that we've really done, like we did some podcast, Philly and I, you joined us, I think, for a season 1 recap, and when the first batch dropped, there is this sort of like, what if a bunch of things from like fantasy and lore and like sort of history are all true? Sort of, what if there is this like, so what if there is like, Lucifer and what else, Taran? Help me out here. Like, yeah, like Cain and Abel are characters in this show. Like, he's the Lord of the Dreaming, so he can make nightmares, and it's
They
just
also like tapped into like the DC universe, right? Like there's comic
yes,
book characters.
they did do that as
Van
well. Yeah.
Helsing.
Yes, Van Helsing. Yeah, so it's just filled with like historical fantasy like references all the time, and these characters are popping up. Like, actually, yeah, DC. Like, and I guess it's more. It's not DC. It's more. And that's not even DC. Loki plays a big role in season 2.
Oh,
So
is
Loki.
it? I guessed DC. I was hoping. I'm not.
No, but
It was it part of?
No, I think you're right. And then what I'm saying is that, but like the Loki part is actually from like Greek mythology. He's not
Right,
like,
yeah, not the Marvel Loki
he's not the
character.
Marvel Loki. He is the like Greek mythology Loki. And so they're playing, like, imagine if all of that stuff is sort of true. And it's just so like magical and mystical in a way that I think is just really good. And then the story that they tell over both the first part and the second part, I just think are like work extremely well in terms of what they're trying to do. And so I get why the show is not happening. I think in some ways I very much agree with the idea that the show is not continuing past this, but I was very much watching and being like, oh, it's too bad that I didn't get like 6 seasons of this thing, because I would just sort of eat all of it up. So I'm excited for the last episode, but it does have a pretty definitive ending. So if you were worried about watching it because you were like, well, they're not going to finish the story, I wouldn't be worried about it. I would absolutely go and check it out and watch it. I also think it's a show you could watch at your own, because it is so like a lot happens. You could watch it at your own pace and sort of get the most out of it that way, instead of just like binging through it. But I liked it a lot.
All right. I don't think you watched this. I didn't.
No,
Washington Black did air. Seems like to a more middling response than I think I was maybe hoping for, but it's still early days, I would say, overall in terms of the response to Washington Black. So I'll try to keep an eye on it and see. Maybe have time to check out an episode at some point.
Dude, I feel like the biggest thing that aired last week in terms of the thing that got the most attention was the South Park premiere.
Oh, that is very true. Yeah, we must.
I feel like I feel like it feels like we talked about South Park, but we didn't, because we talked about the fact that the premiere had been delayed. And I guess if people don't know this, I feel like this was happening, like what people were sort of like were talking about. If you haven't heard about what happened this week, we'll catch you up. But South Park is a show that is turned around very quickly. They write it and make it in about a week, which kind of
I think it's gotten
wild.
longer since then, but
yeah, okay, yeah, fair. But you could definitely feel the sort of relevancy of the episode this week in terms of like how timely it is, which is that they do a whole episode basically sort of condemning both Donald Trump, but mostly this this payment that Paramount made to or CBS made to Donald Trump to settle a lawsuit. And so they very much call out they sort of blast everybody. They do the thing that they've only done with a few characters in the history of the show, which is they use like the image of that person. They use Donald Trump. They do a lot of things to make fun of him. And I can't remember if he said anything about it, but it just does feel like in the age where other places are actually sort of like kowtowing to Donald Trump. This felt like such the opposite of like, no, we're just gonna, South Park is notorious for making fun of everybody and everything, but they very much made fun of Donald Trump this week, literally in bed with the devil.
Yes.
Naked.
Really went for it, the South Park episode. And it does, like, the update from the story last week about Colbert is that it is seeming at least more and more likely, or more and more sort of widespread belief there is that it was much more like a quid quo pro kind of situation going on when it came to Colbert's cancellation, and then South Park was this effectively giving a big finger to the whole situation, and to Trump. So making waves is South Park in its premiere, and likely further.
Yeah, so the White House released a statement, sort of condemning the episode, and then Matt Stone and Trey Parker have issued. They said, "We're terribly sorry." That's what they said.
Well, like, part of the whole thing was that they were like, because this deal that has gone through now requires essentially like what is essentially like pro-Trump messaging, and they have now also canceled all DEI programs over at Paramount, and there's like all of this stuff happening there that they were like, all right, well, because we are required to give our pro-Trump messaging, here is our pro-Trump segment, and it was not pro-Trump.
Well, the FCC has officially approved the merger, so that was what they were sort of waiting on. That happened actually on July 24th, so 4 days ago, as of recording. And I think already Josh Greenstein has left for a major role at Paramount. But anyway, the deal will close on August 7th. But this merger of Skydance Media and Paramount Global, and has been a lot of chatter about what this means for Paramount. Also, I think the number 2 for under Ted Sarandos at Netflix has also come over to sort of to take over basically the movie business. So that is kind of interesting. And actually, Ellison, who is the stakeholder here who bought it, has long been a movie producer. So movies seem to potentially be at the forefront of what he will want to do with Paramount, but it's also likely that they'll sell off a bunch of the smaller assets like Comedy Central, BT. You would think at one point they could have maybe sold Showtime. Probably, I don't know that it's worth sort of like because even now when you look at a show that's Paramount, like I think is Dexter Showtime, and Dexter gets billed as like it's on Paramount Plus with Showtime. So I don't think they're gonna like re-pull that out. But anyway, there are certainly things there, but the deal, unless they go back, and I don't know if they could do this, but backtrack. But the deal's gone through, and Matt and Trey made a lot of money off the deal that they made, and then released this first episode. So it made people. It was just like kind of blew up. I think the night the episode aired, I felt like immediately I was seeing people's reactions to them doing this again, because I think it feels so different than the way most other, at least like companies are reacting to the moment, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of, we already kind of talked a little bit about it at this point, but Dexter Resurrection continuing to kill it, literally and figuratively.
Nice.
In its, I guess, its first season, I guess, but it really does feel like, I guess, you call this, I think, like season 10 at this point.
I was trying to explain this to a friend recently, of like the difference between this and New Blood and Original Sin. I was like trying to explain all that, and I was like, just pretend it's Dexter season 10, basically.
Yeah, because the question I think a lot of people are having is that, especially given that it's getting ratings that are higher than the original show had, it's like, well, can I start here given that this is good and people are liking it? And normally I would say the answer is yes, but I do think it would be kind of difficult to start here.
I do think the previously on does it. I think you could certainly just start with New Blood, and then knowing how New Blood ends, you could then just go from New Blood to Resurrection, and you're probably fine. I think that's probably what I would tell people to do. Or I think the first episode does give a pretty like, here's what happened on Dexter New Blood.
You know what you could do is you could start with you could start with Dexter Original Sin.
You don't,
And that will give you the backstory and lore on Dexter that you kind of need, and some of the major players for Resurrection.
And also,
and then
Dexter Original Sin is the way that explains the ending to Dexter New Blood for Dexter Resurrection.
And honestly, I think you could. There's a world where you could even skip New Blood.
I think you could skip
enough of a summary.
Yeah, because there's the summary at the beginning of Resurrection.
Yeah. So I think like these are the two the best received like Dexter seasons in a while. You could start with Original Sin, get the like the start of Dexter's story with all that backstory, and then you can pick up with Resurrection, get the summary of what happened in New Blood, and you will be you'll have like, you know, the Dexter that is like 20, 30 years later. And so you'll see some outcomes from things that you saw maybe very early seeds of in Original Sin. But you wouldn't get the resolution for those things anyway, because the resolution for those things happen in the show proper.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of assuming that people watched Dexter. I feel like I don't know how many people are like newly jumping in. And in that case, I don't really think you need Dexter Original Sin either. I think you honestly can just jump into the show, because I think the Dexter Original Sin is worth watching, but I think
you can watch it, but I think that you will be a little bit confused. Not confused, but you'll feel like you're missing a lot, I think.
If you watch
there's a lot of references that are not really explained with context, I think, in Resurrection.
But I think that the references are to things from like the show, and so I assume people have watched at least like 4 seasons of the show, you know?
Right. What I'm saying is if you started purely with Resurrection.
Oh yeah, I don't think you should do. You've never watched Dexter. Yeah.
If you had watched Dexter, you don't need to watch Original Sin or New Blood.
Okay, exactly. This is yes, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
So this week made some buzz, and I'm not going to spoil it, but essentially the show did kind of a very fun casting thing where they cast like a bunch of big names. And so like they announced first Uma Thurman, and then it was Neil Patrick Harris, Peter Dinklage, Eric Stonestreet, David Dastmalchian, who people would know from Late Night with the Devil, and then
Murderbot recently.
And Murderbot, and Kristen Ritter, who's Jessica Jones, and been in a bunch of other stuff. So they cast all these people, and what's kind of fun about that is everyone was like, which one is going to be the killer? Like, that's kind of fun. And I feel like this episode sort of gives that reveal in an extremely fun way, in terms of like who all of these people are, in terms of like the things on the show. Like, it just introduces you to basically all those characters. Some of them have been introduced maybe before then, I maybe even not. So yeah, it's just it is a pretty fun episode. It's probably the most camp episode I've seen in a while. I did get to interview Eric Stonestreet, David Dastmalchian, and Kristen Ritter. So that article went up on Parade earlier this week, and basically talking, because they're all in scenes, they're in a scene together, and it is just extremely. It is a very fun episode of Dexter, I think. So people are, I think, really resonating with it, and I would encourage people to sort of catch up.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, there are a couple things coming out. Anything else to catch up on?
I don't think so. No.
Big one coming out this week, Together movie. A lot of hype for this movie I've seen.
Yeah, I think it's fun. So it's a horror movie, and it is Dave Franco and Allison Brie, who are married in real life. If you've seen any of the trailer stuff, I think like it has a fun premise. This also went a little I guess not viral online, Taran. I don't know what I would call it. There's some controversy around this movie that then immediately was sort of I think kind of dismissed, in the sense that like somebody says that they wrote this movie and sent actually their script to one of the producers on the movie, I think is what happened. Ultimately, then I believe the writer has said like, actually, I can prove how I had this idea far before someone else had already. And there was sort of this conversation of like, nobody owns one particular idea. Like certainly plagiarism is a thing, but this isn't like the most like I can't believe nobody's thought of this premise before. You know what I mean? But
Well, I think so. If I'm not mistaken, the person who they filed a lawsuit claiming that they have like stolen their idea, their whatever, and they made an independent film called Better Half in 2023 that they're claiming that this movie is a ripoff of, and so you know that I believe is the whole thing. But you know, these things are, who knows what's actually going on at this point. But people are saying this is good. This you should check out together.
yeah,
So.
you talk a lot about like a sort of IMDb horror
Mm.
calibration of like 6.6, actually indicating that this is probably actually. Am I? Don't want to
For
speak
body
for you.
horror,
For
it's
body horror,
it's no substance, but that's pretty good.
yeah. I've heard this is pretty good as well. This has had some buzz. So yeah.
Yeah. Season 2 of Twisted Metal is coming out this week, or at least starting this week over on Peacock. I really wanted to like Twisted Metal. I played the games when I was a kid, big fan of them. And I actually feel like the kinds of stories from, you wouldn't expect it to be this way, but like the story of Twisted Metal is a game where you drive a car and you fight other cars. And somehow it had those games often had some of the most like impactful storytelling in video games that I remembered as a kid, just because of how sort of classic storytelling there were. The basic premise of the games is that you played in this contest to win a wish from Calypso, and the wishes usually went poorly, and that always stuck with me. So I was kind of excited for the TV show. I figured, like, they've got some stuff to mine from. And I was honestly kind of disappointed. It felt so much more like run of the mill, kind of like fun action, tongue in cheek kind of thing with a pretty basic storyline that had nothing to do with like the Twisted Metal tournament, at least in the first part of the season. I didn't finish it. And so I dropped off of it. If people love season 2, I might come back because I really want to like the show, but it was not doing much for me. But I say that people did like this. People did really enjoy this. I've heard many good things about it. So it was not for me, but it certainly was for other people.
The thing I think about for Twisted Metal is that I feel like I don't know that people think it's good as much as some people think it's fun, and it's worth being fun. And that sounds like a weird complaint, but I think that if you look at the Rotten Tomato score, which has a 67% critic score but a 93% Rotten Tomato audience score, tells you like people, there is an audience for this. That doesn't mean it's going to be like the top 10 TV show of the year, but like some people just want to watch a bunch of people driving cars around, like, I don't know. That's it. I've never watched this, so I can't speak much to it. It has a really good cast, like Anthony Mackie and Stephanie Beatrice and some other people in here. Thomas Hayden Church, Will Arnett, I believe, is the voice of a character. I don't think he.
Yeah, you can see here that the physical character is played by Joe
That's
Sinoa.
Samoa Joe, actually. That's the pro wrestler, and I'm not kidding. His name is Samoa Joe, Taran.
But voiced by Will Arnett, yes.
So, yeah. Okay, Twisted Metal.
Yes. Another show starting over on Apple, Chief of War. I guess it's a mini series, so that's how they get away with not having a one-word title.
Chief of War. I think this looks really good. And again, I don't think it's going to be like the best show I've ever seen, but the show looks very epic. It is been a passion project for Jason Momoa for a long time. It is about Hawaiian history and sort of like trying to fend off colonization. I think like visually, this is going to like be really good. And I think we'll have good like action set piece fight things, and it will be emotion. There'll be some emotion to it. But yeah, he's playing obviously a Hawaiian war chief fending off colonization. I think the visuals of it have me pretty excited. Whether it can like live up to that, I don't know. We'll see. But
yeah. Honestly, it's still wild to me that like the dude from Stargate Atlantis is this big of a movie star now. Like,
yeah,
who would
he's
have
big.
guessed?
Yeah. He's executive
But
producing this show as well, so he's both starring and
yes,
executive producing. Yeah.
I think this could be really good. I'm not gonna lie. I was like seeing some like trailers for it, like just vaguely when I'm like skipping through ads on Apple TV,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, did they come out with C season 2?
Yeah, there have been like a handful of these type of shows, I feel like, before. And I feel like even Jason Momoa has been involved in many of these
That's what I'm
shows
saying.
before.
C
Mhm.
was an
Yeah.
one of the first Apple TV shows starring Jason Momoa. And oh, they did already do a C season 2. I guess
I
I was talking about C season 3.
I think there's
But
literally one more. I think there's one more like Jason Momoa action show that I want to pull up.
perhaps.
But yeah.
But this is, I think, very different in that it is a telling of like a true historical story, to some degree. I don't know what the accuracy is, of course, but you know, I'm curious for sure. I think this could be very good.
Yeah, I think it could be fun.
Then there's also, of course, The Naked Gun.
I'm so excited for The Naked Gun. I don't think that there is honestly any comedy like that shaped me more than basically Leslie Nielsen in The Naked
Mm.
Gun. I think it's so funny. I think his like extremely dry sense of humor is so good. I'm a tad nervous for this. Like I think that there's a lot. It's funny because there's both a lot to live up to, and also there was like 4 Naked Gun movies, and so like I think kind of like the first 2 are like really good, and then I don't think that the other 2 are as funny. But I think Liam Neeson is perfect for this. I think
Mm.
he's the exact type of sort of like dry sense of humor guy who could step into the shoes of Leslie Nielsen and do a good job. So I'm very excited for this movie.
I honestly, when I heard about the movie, was interested and kind of excited, but I feel like I've been dodging the trailers for this movie left and right for the last
Mhm.
like 3 months. And I've, through osmosis, seen the whole thing multiple times.
I,
And it's
I,
like I
I
would be
know.
way more excited for the movie if I hadn't seen parts of it. And I think that because part of the problem is I think it just doesn't work in trailer form very much. I need to be in that space, um, like ready to watch that style of humor. Just seeing the gags play out ahead of time not only feel like spoilers for the movie itself, but also like I'm there. I'm in theaters to watch like a horror movie, and I'm seeing trailers for The Naked Gun, and I'm like, wow.
Well, I think one of the things that's hard about it is that like there was sort of this thing about comedies. We don't have like a surge of comedies. There was actually a really interesting, I think it's a Talon podcast I listened to last week about that maybe the theater comedy is maybe coming back, and that actually we go through waves of these. And so you can think of
Mm.
like that we had sort of like the raunchy comedies of the late 90s. Then I feel like they go away for a little bit. We get more rom-coms, and then eventually we get sort of like the super bads and Anchorman and Talladega Nights, and you get this run of movies, and they've disappeared for a while. And actually, if you look at a lot of the comedy movie stars, people we thought would be comedy movie stars, went and actually moved into drama roles. So like Jonah Hill felt like somebody who could maybe move, become a comedy staple, and he does Moneyball. Will Ferrell is kind of the only person who like for a long time stuck with comedy, and even then he dabbled into drama. But
He did that. What was that movie about the writer?
yeah, A Stranger Than Fiction, is that the
Stranger
name
Than
of the movie?
Fiction. I like that movie.
I like that movie too. Yeah. So
That was 2006.
I
Oh my
know,
god.
I know. And so what's interesting is I do think you kind of have to supermarket a movie like this, and also at the same time, so much of comedy is about it's unexpected. That's why you laugh, is because you didn't see the thing that the person was going to say coming. And so inherently, I do feel the same as you, that every time I see a trailer for it, I'm like, oh no, stop showing me the things. And also, this is going to sound really weird, but I actually don't know that I feel like often Naked Gun, like it's so strange because it was silly. And I want to figure out how to describe. I used to have this thing when I used to talk about movies with Ariel a lot, where I would talk about like in Wes Anderson's movies, the world was silly, but the people were serious. And then you can also have the opposite, where the people are silly, but the world is serious. And both of those things can, like, I feel like that is good. And I do feel like I'm trying to like the baseball scene in the Naked Gun. Do you know the thing I'm talking about, where he's like, he has to like find the bomb on the so he becomes the umpire. He's like patting them all down, and he's getting, I don't know. There is something that like all of that seems very silly. So maybe Naked Gun is just silly. But sometimes I'm like, maybe this Naked Gun movie is going to be too silly. But maybe,
well, that's
I
the
don't
thing
know.
too, is that like I think that, and I wasn't around when the original like came out, but I feel like I don't know if that style of humor is in right now. And I don't know if it was then either, or if it like helped set that tone, whatever the case may be. But it is very silly.
It's puns and gags and
Puns and gags,
slapstick.
wordplay.
Yeah.
I always think about like Airplane is another one that is sort of in this vein. And I always think about the like "Don't Call Me Shirley" gag, like how, you know, I found that hilarious as a kid, and I'm sure it was funny, you know, back when the
So,
movie came out.
I do think this is a the world is silly and the people are serious movie, right? Because like in the world, you could get patted down by the umpire and nobody, but like you're like that's a
I
thing,
think you're
like,
right.
yeah,
I think in the sense that the characters take themselves seriously, but they are silly.
they are silly as
You know,
well.
they are silly characters who take themselves seriously in a silly world.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I am excited for this. I very much will be seeing this probably Thursday night. I I'm I want to like this a lot, and maybe I might be setting myself up to have my heart broken. But Leslie Nielsen is very formative to the type of comedy that I both like drew inspiration from. So yeah, we'll see if Liam Neeson can
Yeah.
hold water to him.
All right. Anything else, Grace?
There is one animated movie that is a sequel. So Bad Guys
Oh
2
yes.
comes out this week as
How
well.
could I forget?
Oh yeah,
Screened in the Big Brother house.
correct. Bad Guys 2 comes out this week. Which, like, one thing I'll say is that like I don't think I really knew when the first one came out just how popular of a graphic novel series this was, and then this movie did really well, both audience wise and critically. Where like a lot of people went to go see it, and then also like I feel like kind of like the crowd of people, which includes myself, where like sometimes I just go see like, I guess, kids movies, because animated kids movies. But I was like, oh, that's not bad. It's like not a bad movie. And there's like a certain level of this where like I have a bunch of nieces and nephews, and sometimes they like put on a movie and I'm like, do we maybe we could watch something else? And I actually don't mind if they're like, we should watch Bad Guys. I'm like, all right, let's put on Bad Guys. So Bad Guys 2 comes out this week as well. I think I'm going to take two of my nieces to go see this. So maybe I'll get their review of the movie, Taran, for next week.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it then for the week here on the Tastemakers. Tune in again next week, and we will have some updates. Maybe a review of Bad Guys 2. Maybe hopefully we'll get a sense of Chief of War, see if it lives up to the hype. I guess not the hype. I haven't seen much hype for it, but my own hype. See if Together lives up to the hype, perhaps, if we're able to catch that one. And amongst many other things, of course, here on the Tastemakers podcast. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you tell people about the podcast. Make sure you are checking out all the other things, like the book I wrote about Big Brother, Inside the Mirror, Behind the Mirror. You can check it out at taranarmstrong.com, pre-order the book, and I would be very appreciative. What are you up to, Grace?
So I launched a new podcast series. I would tease it on this podcast. I maybe even pre-announced it last week, but I'm going to be recapping weekly each of the New York Times top 100 films of the 21st century. I've just taken on a little 2-year project, Taran.
No big deal.
Rotating guest each week. We're counting it down from 100 to 1. The first movie is Superbad, and there's nobody I would probably talk more like I like talking movies about more with Ariel, and Ariel was very much like, I don't really want to talk about Superbad. And I was like, can you please come talk about Superbad? And I'm actually excited for this, where I don't want every time for it to be like someone's favorite movie. I actually like the idea that some people might be like, this is a top 100 movie, and I like think it's okay. So I think that that's kind of fun. So I watched Superbad last night, and I very much enjoyed revisiting it. And so I'm going to be chatting about it with Ariel, and then we'll be going down from there. Next week is Memories of Murder, a Bong Joon-ho film. I think it's kind of disappointing that actually Bong Joon-ho didn't get to bookmark the top 100 list, but
it should have been 100.
I know, but that's okay. So that's a new project. It's on the Crying Laughing podcast feed, but if you check out my social media, I've promoted the link there. And yeah, writing on Substack, writing for Parade, have that interview with the Dexter Resurrection folks, has some other stuff coming out. And yeah, I'm on social media at Hi from Grace.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you today. Thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see all of you next time.